The FAI announced today that they would be unable to accept an invitation to an emergency meeting of the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Transport, Tourism and Sport, at which the association's future was to be discussed, as they are currently focused on refinancing a refinancing package that they say will guarantee the future of the FAI and safeguard jobs. They were due to go to the Oireachtas tomorrow. Shouldn't they go to that, Brian, and account for themselves? The politicians there speak for us.
Tommy, I don't have a problem with them not going to that tomorrow. I think that the remaining directors, Paul Cooke in particular, but also the other new directors that come in after the last AGM, are obviously working very hard to try and tidy up some of the mess that's in place at the moment. And it is an absolutely crucial time. There's 200 employees waiting to hear what their future is. It was mentioned after that press conference last week that there would be consequences for the employees. So they're dangling. If they were to go, I think the mistake they made, and the communications there have been regularly quite poor. They put out a tweet on Sunday night saying they'd be available to go and meet the government and meet the Oireachtas Committee. They shouldn't have done that, because obviously the work is very intense at the moment. And if they're trying to get something over the line with the banks, or an assurance from UEFA, or an assurance from somebody else that there will be funding there and money to pay the wages of those people coming up to Christmas and the New Year, I think it's right that they don't go and waste time on it tomorrow. I think the time is absolutely crucial at the moment. And that would be for the politicians to have a little bit of a bashing session at this group. The only one of this group who's still in place, who was part of the regime that caused all the problems, is Donald Conway. And he needs to go. He said he's going. He needs to go. There's one other gentleman, Hurley, who was around for a shorter period of time, less involved. But I think the other people while they were around and they sat on their hands a little bit and they didn't ask enough questions, Paul Cooke wasn't, they're getting on with it and trying to fix it. And they should be given this vital week to get on with that.
Can I read you? You probably read this piece. It was in the Irish Times by Niamh Brennan.
I've read every piece, Tommy, go on.
So you have, who's a professor of corporate governance at UCD, assessing the accounts and the gravity of them. It's a long piece with all the ins and outs of it. The conclusion that she said is that the organisation is at death's door. As I see it, only government intervention can save Irish soccer. I don't know anybody more synonymous with Irish soccer than you. Is that the way you feel about it at the moment? Death's door?
Well, like everyone else who has ever had a part in the game here, and I'm talking about people now who are running teams down at the lowest levels, underage football, where I started off playing and managing. You know, you feel devastated about how things are gone, and you feel angry, and you feel annoyance and frustration and lots of things. But we have to move on. We've got to get on. Her description of the accounts and the circumstances that are in by Professor Niamh Brennan are detailed and a great summary. I don't understand the accounts so much. I'm not an accountant. But the reality is that the game has to continue. It's not where... I saw another financial piece today saying it may not be a going concern. I don't understand how it can't be a going concern. Football has to continue. Matches have to continue to be played. People have to organise them. Referees will be in place. People will be coaching teams. There's teams training all around the country this evening as we speak, and later on tonight. And matches will go ahead. Somebody has to organise it. This organisation, such as it is, maybe a reformed organisation, has to be saved. Has to be saved, and the government are already intervening. I understand that there's cross-party support for help and support for the FAI, not the previous regime that left us in such a mess, but a newer reformed FAI. As it's happened in recent days, I've met a couple of employees of the association who put a very interesting proposal in front of me for a new reformed style of FAI. And I think that when they show that to, when the new board comes into play, and they also get the opportunity to show it to the government people and the Minister Ross, I think it should be looked at very, very carefully. I was very impressed with what they showed me as a proposal for a future. But I think in the short term, their jobs need to be saved. And I think that's the most crucial thing at the moment. There's a lot of very fine people there working on the ground. They've had to put up with a lack of direction and mismanagement over the past few years. They've gone on through the period since March until now, working away on the ground, helping out clubs, helping out coaches, developing coaches, putting on coaching courses, doing that grassroots work that needs to continue. And those people...
Those are the jobs that are at risk, isn't it?
It appears they're the jobs at risk, but they have to be saved. The social commitment, the work that they do in the communities is vital. Everybody has somebody who plays football, who's someone's kid who plays football, girls and boys, and they know the work the volunteers do, but they're aware of the work that these people do in supporting it, and that has to happen. So, but I think the government have to take on the responsibility of helping out in this. There will be help from UEFA and FIFA.
Can I put a last one to you then? There's two things here that, as you say, need to save it in the short term, save the functioning running of football in Ireland at that level. Does there need to be some kind of inquiry as to what exactly happened? There's been a lot of talk about this one man who got all this power and misused it by the evidence of what we've seen in the last week and over the last year. What's to stop that? Do we need an inquiry so that we know that won't happen again, to find out exactly what happened? Like something a bit more, questions to be asked at places like the committee.
Yeah, I think Paul Cooke said in that little interview, we need to draw a line under it. I don't think we can draw a line under it. We can draw a line under some of it, some of the account stuff, but that's going to drift on for a while, I think. Yeah. We can't draw a line under it and say it didn't happen. There is going to have to be questions asked. Who was responsible? How did it let it happen? And ensure that there's proper reform in the future, that it can never happen again, that one person can, just to quote what Niamh Brennan actually said in that article, captured the board. That cannot happen again in the future. But we've got to look at the now and do everything possible to support the people who are trying to fix it and ensure that those jobs are saved and the game continues. And that, we get to March and maybe the senior international team, can beat Slovakia and then beat the winners of Bosnia and Northern Ireland and get to the Euro finals and look to a brighter future for the game in this country under a new regime and reformed style and a different type of departmental organisation within the FAI for the future.